we've got to start with somebody finally adding a bit of spice to the All-Ireland Football Championship. I don't know if you're a lover of sports conspiracy theories, but this year the NFL draft was supposed to be very boring. It was going to be a really low number of people watching it, and then Aaron Rodgers dropped a bomb that he was interested in moving from the Green Bay Packers, and the audience was the third most watched of all time. This year's football championship, we were kind of limping into it. There wasn't that much to whet the appetite. It looks like it's going to be a fairly straight-run thing for Dublin, who don't really have a meaningful game until the All-Ireland semi-final because the Leinster Football Championship is a joke. And then, yesterday, Peter Keane went full Aaron Rodgers. What happened, Owen?
Wrong and unfair. Keane hits out at virus breaches is the headline on the Irish Examiner this morning. It's the lead on a lot of newspapers this morning as well. Peter Keane doing his first press conference of the year ahead of the new season. Kerry playing this weekend against Galway, and he's been talking about the Dubs breaching COVID restrictions. He's been talking about Monaghan and Cork as well, in fairness. He didn't necessarily mention Cork specifically, but it's more to do with people who did break COVID restrictions to go and train a bit earlier than others. He said it was wrong, it was unfair. I think it was unfair on society in general. I think it was a view that we took that we were all in this together, and some of these counties breached the COVID guidelines, and I don't believe they should have. Did it bring any pressure? And I don't, like this is really one of the interesting themes that kind of came up around this conversation was surely all the other counties are doing it, and if not, do they feel a little bit like idiots at the moment? Did it bring pressure? In the early part, I think it did, yes. We took a view down here that we weren't going to do it, that we weren't going to try and break the guidelines. We were going to try and look out for all these people. He mentions his own mother and looking after her and trying to keep her safe, and I guess he says that there could have been a pressure where some players could have said, Jesus, why aren't we doing this? So he's obviously been asked about this at a press conference. He was asked about a lot of things, and he didn't really get into a couple of things, maybe with regards to the punishment that was dished out to these teams, but I think he was pretty happy to head out and say that these things were wrong and unfair. So a little bit of a match lit under the start of the National League campaign, because I think there's been a sense over the last few weeks that it was like, sure, it was just lads kicking a ball around. It's no big deal, and sure, that's the past. We're out of that now. Everything is safe at this point, and sure, no one got hurt in the end from what actually happened. So
well, we don't know that, do we?
We don't know about that for sure, but let's all move on. Certainly is how I felt the story had gone. Not just yet, it seems.
I think what the other counties did was wrong. I think it was unfair. I think it was unfair on society in general. The view was that we were all in this together. And look, some of these counties breached the COVID guidelines, and I don't believe they should have. The view was that we were all in this together. That was what people were texting in at the time. Like, there's a strain of people who believe, sure, look, what's the big deal? Outdoors, everybody should have been allowed to do it anyway, right? That's definitely one view. And then there is another view of people who were looking after or caring for people who had COVID or who were immunocompromised, and they have diametrically opposed views. And on the morning that we were covering the story, we were getting both sides through on the YouTube comments and by WhatsApp. You pay some money, you take your choice, and that is a choice that you make. You know, everybody out there had to make up their own minds. But it's really interesting that Peter Keane has decided, instead of just saying, yeah, nothing to do with us, everybody had to look after their own, they made their decision, we made ours, we're happy with ours. It's like, no, I believe that was the wrong thing to do. That adds a bit of spice to the championship, right? It
does, and like, it's because it's...
There's no way around it. This adds a little bit of spice.
Like, he was always going to be somebody whose voice was going to be interesting to hear on it, because it was Cork and Dublin. And if there's one county who share, I guess, who have the two of them right up at the top of their pedestal of teams that they dislike, or counties that they dislike, in a friendly way, of course.
Enemy's enemy is my friend.
It would be Kerry. So it was always going to be interesting to see what he had to say. Like, forgetting all the actual, I don't know, the small health risk, or whatever way you want to paint it. It'll be a big health risk to some people, small health risk to others, and the COVID restrictions. I think maybe this boils down to just rules and breaching rules. And if you are involved in a county who didn't breach rules over the last couple of months, say, for example, if there is a club month, I know that's not going to happen again, hopefully. If there is a club month, though, for example, next year, and there is some sort of rule in place for you to not train with your county team during this club month, you think Peter Keane, for example, would be like, yeah, just let them off the clubs because I'm sure everybody's playing by the rules? Probably not, to be honest. I think that there is this sense that actually we do what we want because we are the GEA. And again, it's nothing to do with COVID. It's only, we said it that morning when that story came out in the Irish Independent that, I mean, to be outraged by people training in a park, you probably need to get a bit of a life. It's just the idea of some counties feeling that they were bigger than the rules that were in place. And in particular, when it came to Dublin, it was just, it kind of left a sour taste in the mouth a little bit. Now, to be honest with you, I kind of expected, through no information of my own, I heard nothing. I kind of expected Kerry were training. I kind of expected all the top counties were training. And I think that maybe speaks to the attitude that I feel exists within the GEA of people just saying, screw you to the rules.
And it turns out they weren't.
Well, like, I mean, it's one hell of an impassioned speech if they were training and Peter Keane's coming out with this sort of stuff. I think you would certainly have a lot of fortitude to come out and say that this sort of stuff if you were.
And so I don't believe they were. So let me ask you then, as a Kerry supporter, right? Put aside journalism, broadcasting.
No.
Put it all aside, right? As a Kerry supporter, did you want them to be training?
God, that's no, not necessarily. I don't think so.
Not necessarily is not a yes or no. This is a yes or no.
I hadn't really I mean,
I'm asking you now.
Had you thought about that? Had you thought about Kildare?
Yeah, I wanted them not to be training.
You wanted them not to be training. So what? Like, why did you come to that decision? Was it because that they were ambassadors?
No, I'm asking you, and you're filling for time. You're filibustering here. This is a Kerry team who are on the verge of winning an All Ireland in their minds, and who have been within a kick of a ball of stopping the greatest team of all time. And you know that the Dubs were doing 9-a-side training sessions. Did you, as a Kerry fan, in retrospect, do you wish they had been training? Did you want them to be training while COVID was on?
No, I didn't want them to be training while COVID was on. Absolutely not. And that's probably because of the whole image of it. That I guess I had this prejudice that was like, oh, Kerry GA will definitely be out training because maybe there's this kind of cute hooer nature that has been painted of the team, and I just expected that they were doing it. Didn't necessarily want it. If you ask me, did I want it? Like, I mean, who cares? Nobody at home cares whether or not I wanted to see Kerry training or not.
Oh, but I'm asking you as a fan.
To answer your question, not really, no. Like, but in hindsight then, when you see that other counties were doing it, you're like, should they possibly have been doing it because they're losing a competitive
today
they're losing a competitive edge?
And if they lose in injury time in a 1-point game in an All-Ireland final,
was that down to the fact that, well, to be honest with you, it looks like that they were doing a hell of a lot of work on Peloton or something. Peter Keane says we've done so much remote cycling. So maybe they didn't...
Answer the question.
Did I want Kerry to be training during COVID? To be honest with you...
Now that you found out that the Dubs and Monaghan were and loads of other counties were.
I actually don't care. Like, you may think that this is a big deal. I actually don't care all that much. I do think it's interesting that certain counties... did break the rules and certain counties didn't. I was of the opinion that all the counties were going to be breaking the rules. That was my opinion of the GEA. The more I read about it now, the more I'm starting to realise that actually there were a few counties who felt that they were above the law and a few counties who felt that they should abide by the law. And that, in hindsight, is disappointing. Now, it's a completely hypocritical thing to say, but yes, if they get beaten by 1 point in an All-Ireland final, probably won't happen. Dublin are not going to be winning any game by 1 point this year. But if that does happen, you might look back at this time and there will be some things said in a WhatsApp group saying they should have been back training. They should have been up on quarantine.
Will you be sending that message? Will you be like forward to everybody in my address book?
Everybody will. Like, I mean, anybody who supports a county who wasn't caught training over the last few months and they get beaten by Cork or Monaghan or Dublin by a small margin, of course there will be a tongue-in-cheek while they say it, but people will nonetheless say, God, could they have done just that little bit more? Could they have just risked themselves that little bit more and their image? But no, all in all, is it going to make that much of a difference? Maybe not. There's still a couple of months to go before the business end of the championship sets in. Kerry obviously started the league very well last year and they hammered Donegal the final day of the league, and then we all know what happened in the championship. So there was no need to be going back training that early as long as they were doing their fitness work.
Many a true word is spoken in jest, as they say. Right, just very briefly on this final point. We will be doing the contenders today, by the way. We're doing the Dubs with Conor McKeown after 9 o'clock in our contenders series of pre-season analysis, and obviously we're covering the Dubs, who aren't really, you would say, contenders, but are shoe-in favourites according to most people. So just the final bit of news on this comes from the Irish Independent this morning. It's Kevin Doyle with the exclusive. Members of Dublin GA football squad who took part in a secret training session have escaped fines for breaching COVID-19 restrictions. So while they're getting slaughtered on the back pages, on the front pages it has emerged that the Gardaí said, nothing to see here, no fines have been issued, and it looks as well, the Irish Independent are reporting, although it's not finalised, that Monaghan will also avoid any suspension or any fines. The individuals that will involved will avoid any fines. There were, of course, handed down 12-week suspensions, and those 12-week suspensions, we know that's like a really damaging time of the year when all the best work is done. Right on?
Yeah, the other thing on the Examiner, McCarthy will be on the sideline for Cork's league opener. Ronan McCarthy is back this weekend, so his ban is over in time.
What did he miss?
It was...
What did he miss? The time when they couldn't train?
It was 12 weeks.
Right.
But yeah, like it's interesting. So this is Owen Cormacan's piece. He has got quotes here from Sean Hayes, who is a selector with Cork, but he's still a little bit peeved about the fact that he got a 12-week ban and Paddy Talley only got 8 weeks. He says, I'm not going to speak on Ronan's behalf. Yes, we're concerned that he got 12 weeks. Yes, we're concerned that Talley got his reduced by 4 weeks and Ronan didn't, but we didn't take part in any of the conversations Ronan had with the GEA trying to appeal the decision. To be honest with you, Cork got off brilliantly there. I mean, 12-week ban for your manager and you're back by the start of the National League, that is an absolute win. I don't know why anybody's calling for any concern just because some other manager got a 4 week of a shorter ban.
Give us your views, 0879 180 180. Of course, you can leave a comment on the YouTube channel if you want, or wherever. You can get us on Twitter, you can get us on Instagram. We're all over the place, as you know by now if you're listening to us. And for those of you who are consuming us on the podcast, which goes live every morning at 10 a.m, you're very welcome as well, and we'd love to hear from you too. You can always email us feedback@offtheball.com if you wanted it.